Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning to Dr. Siti Khadijah and my friends. We from Group 3 would like to present our topic Musyarakah, Mutanaqisah, Home Financing, Issue and Practice. Before we begin our presentation, I would like to introduce to our group member. Okay, my name is Afiqa Nabila binti Mahadi, and second presenter is Asma Khalida binti Aref, and the third presenter is Ainol Bazilah binti Ismail, and the last presenter is Nur Khalisah binti Mohd Khalid.
Based on our assignment, we have 4 objective research. Firstly, to explain the concept of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah in home financing. Secondly, to elaborate the modus operandi of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah in home financing. And thirdly, to know the practice of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah in home financing. And the last one is to discuss the issue of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah in home financing. Okay, we will explain more about this on the next slide.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Afiqa Nabila binti Mahadi. Okay, in this slide, I will explain the concept of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah. Musyarakah in term of language is derived from the Arabic word whose basic word is sharika. Okay, it means an alliance, sharing or joint partnership between the two parties, which is also referred as a shirkah. Okay, it means an agreement entered into between two or more parties as a partner to share capital and profit in a business. Okay, if the business suffer a loss, it must be based on the respective capital highlighted, which is model. Okay, partner capital is not required for the same amount of model. According to the Maliki school, Sharika is a right for all partners to deal with any part of the common property in a partnership. Okay, meanwhile Mutanaqisah mean to continue to decrease. Okay, Musyarakah Mutanaqisah carries the meaning in terms of its language. It is a partnership that is diminishing or shrinking or even ending with a sole ownership. Okay, the concept of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah is a concept of a syariatan contract that is between the financier, who is a partner, giving the right to the other partner to own the asset with one or several payment that is gradually based on the condition agreed by both parties. Okay, it is a partnership contract which in the end is fully owned by one party and the partnership, and this process continue until the end of maturity period. The ownership portion of the asset will pass completely to the customer. So the ownership of the asset is both party. But after that, the asset will become the full property of the customer when he has repaid all the financing highlight by the bank within this stipulated time period. So it's like buying a car or house. In this slide, I will talk about the evidence that say Musyarakah Mutanaqisah is permissible in Islam. Okay, in Surah Sign, verse 24, and indeed many associate oppress one another except for those who believe and do righteous deed, and few are they. There is also a hadith narrated by Abu Dawud from Abu Hurairah. The Messenger of Allah said, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala said that I am the third party of two people who are in company as long as one party does not betray the others. Okay, if one of the party has betrayed, I am of them. Okay, based on this hadith, when the business Allah become a third party because business is a good thing to do. But if the partner if there any act of backstabbing between the partner, Allah will come out from the partnership. The Sharia Advisory Council of Bank Negara Malaysia in its meeting decide that financing product based on musyarakah contract are permissible as long as there is no element of capital guarantee or profit by one partner over another partner. Okay, during the process of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah, there are 5 elements need to be present during this contract. Okay, the first is the syuraka. Syuraka is the shareholder, which is like a bank that lend money to the Ra'sul Mal. Okay, the second element is Ra'sul Mal, which is the customer. Okay, the third element is Mashru', which is a business venture or project. And the fourth element is rib, which means predetermined profit allocations. And the last is zirah, which is ijab and kabul. Okay, this element will be explained more clearly in modus operandi. Modus operandi that my friend will explain later. Thank you.
My name is Nur Khalisah. Okay, this slide about practice of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah in home financing. Okay, first point, Musyarakah Mutanaqisah and Islamic Banking has been established and includes for all Muslim consumers in Malaysia. Then the term of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah was widely accepted in the medium and long term, which is we as community encouraged to use this contract in home financing. Okay, next point is Musyarakah Mutanaqisah is a new home finance product that includes numerous contracts including Musyarakah, Ijarah and sale contracts. So, the process Musyarakah Mutanaqisah home financing occurs when the bank approves the client's home financing application. Also, the former pays the developer the balance of the house price. Okay, third point is Musyarakah Mutanaqisah home finance is less expensive than BBA home financing, which is baik sama ajil, because Musyarakah Mutanaqisah home finance is superior to BBA home finance because Sharia scholars have reached an agreement on the permissibility in house financing, and the balance of the financing at any time also never exceed the original price of the assets. Okay, last point is Musyarakah Mutanaqisah financing, which use a profit sharing system more equitable than BBA home financing because majority of consumers are dissatisfied with BBA home financing, also believe it has various faults in terms of idea, pricing, justice, profit computation method, societal well-being, and Sharia compliant. So overall, we can see in Musyarakah Mutanaqisah home financing is still better than other home financing contracts such as BBA from a Sharia perspective and necessarily Islamic banking options.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Asma Khalida and I'm going to tell you about Musyarakah Mutanaqisah home financing contract and modus operandi of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah home financing. So Musyarakah Mutanaqisah home financing contract is based on partnership between two parties, which is the bank and the customer. This partnership cover mutual ownership between the bank and the customer over the home involved in the agreement. Okay, next we go to the modus operandi of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah home financing. Musyarakah Mutanaqisah home financing can be structured using the following step. So the first one is the customer identifies the property, which is the sign S&P, which stands for Sales and Purchase Agreement. They pays deposit and chooses a house and applies for bank financing. The second one is the bank approves the application and enters into a Musyarakah agreement with the customer to purchase and own the house jointly. Example of bank to customer ratios of 90% and 10% respectively. So the third one is the customer leases the bank's share of the house. The fourth is The customer will pay an amount in addition to the rental to buy the bank's units in the property. The fifth and the last one is the partnership will be terminated with the customer owning 100% of the house, and the title will be transferred to him, which is the customer.
Next, we will explain about the issue of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah in home financing.
We move on to the next slide, which is the issues of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah in home financing. The first issue is the bankers still charge fines to customers, and the second issue would be the payment of the house takaful guarantee.
Hi, my name is Ainol Bazilah. Okay, I will present about the issue of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah in home financing. Okay, as we know that Musyarakah Mutanaqisah is a product that used in Islamic banking system for housing, financing and asset ownership. Okay, this product also one of the best product in the Islamic banking system because it benefit by the bonds party between customer and bank. However, there are some issue and problem that have arise in this product. Okay, as we can see in the slide, the first issue is the banker still charge fine to the customer. For the first point of this issue, customer will ask the bank to reschedule the monthly payment that they need to settle according to their ability. Okay, for the second point is the bank will charge a fee for rescheduling the payment and be charged a fine for not fulfilling the contract of agreement that have made before this. And the third point is the customer must bear the cost of new contract agreement. Okay, customer will ask the bank to reschedule the monthly payment because they fail to make a payment based on schedule before this. With that, the payment period will be a change in the contract of agreement that they have done before. So, the issue that arises is the bank will charge a fee for rescheduling the payment and be charged a fine for not fulfilling the contract of agreement before this. Okay, means that customer asks the bank to reschedule the monthly payment, but to reschedule the monthly payment, the customer will be charged a fee, and at the same time, customer will be charged a fine too because this customer dikenakan denda disebabkan tak memenuhi syarat-syarat perjanjian kontrak, macam melanggar kontrak tersebut. So the customer must pay two costs of new contract between the bank and customer. In this issue, customer must pay two payment, namely fee and fine. Okay, this issue show that they do not practice the principle of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah properly because as we know, Musyarakah Mutanaqisah any loss or gain must be borne by both parties who made the partnership. Okay, beside that, any cost incurred in the partnership have to be borne by all the partner as they have agreed to do the partnership, whether profit or loss, and all capital contribution are made in together. Even in the banking system, any costs in this partnership are borne by the customer only, while the bank only bear the cost of capital. Thus, the principle of musyarakah can be classified that any loss or gain must be borne by both parties entering into the partnership.
Here comes the second issue. The second issue that arises is the payment of the house takaful guarantee. In this case, this guarantee should be borne by both parties because the property is owned jointly and is a joint liability. In this partnership, they are jointly responsible for bearing the cost of property protection rather than being burdened solely on one partner. This is because the property protection imposed is intended to provide benefits to both parties who share it in addition to the property security guarantee. Second, according to the concept of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah, the bank only provides takaful services or recommends a takaful company to the customer in order to guarantee the property. The bank, on the other hand, does not guarantee the property in the same way. Even though they can share in the security of the property in this contract, the property will be owned by one party only at the end of this contract. When doing a partnership, however, those who share must take care of the property safety from any defects or destruction that may have occurred while the partnership is still in progress. As a result, the bank must also bear the cost of the guarantee jointly, and in the end, when the property belongs to only one party, the bank can charge a small service fee, which is al-uj, to the customer for willing to jointly bear the guarantee of the property during the partnership with the customer in owning the property. Okay, now I will explain the advantages and disadvantages of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah home financing. So first I will tell you about the advantages of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah. The Musyarakah Mutanaqisah benefits and drawbacks when compared to the widely used Murabahah. There are several advantages and disadvantages to implementing the Musyarakah Mutanaqisah. In the following lines, I will explain some of them. So the first advantages of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah is that it is a less expensive or more affordable mode of finance for asset acquisition in general and home financing in particular, at least from the customer's perspective, than asset financing through either the baik bitamanajil mode of financing or a conventional loan. Furthermore, baik bitamanajil financing places additional strain on the customer and causes hardship. The second is that the length of the financing period can also be reduced, which benefits both the bank and the client. The former will receive the invested funds, which may be reinvested in new projects. The latter will be able to obtain the required asset in a shorter amount of time. This demonstrates that Musyarakah Mutanaqisah is a more flexible mode of financing than baik bitaman ajil. The third is the financing and installment payments as well as the rent can be adjusted on a regular basis to reflect market changes. This makes the Musyarakah Mutanaqisah less vulnerable to external factors such as interest rate and inflation movements that alternatives baik bitamanajil financing face. It also provides financiers with more options for managing liquidity risk. The fourth is that it is consistent with Maqasid al-Shari'ah, which promotes maslahah or the welfare of the people by making it easier for clients to finance asset purchases. It helps reduce hardship for the people while also serving the public interest, both of which are desirable. By hardship, we mean the difficulty of paying an overprice for baik bitamanajil financing as opposed to a Musyarakah Mutanaqisah contract that reflects the market price of a commodity. By using a Musyarakah Mutanaqisah model, interest, which is riba, can be avoided entirely, making this model more Islamic than the baik bitamanaje, which mimics a debt-based mode of finance. The balance of financing will never at any point in time exceed the original price of the asset under this model. The fifth is, if implemented through cooperatives of mutual funds, this model can have a significant impact on the economy while remaining non-inflationary due to no money creation, as is the case with the fractional reserve banking system. In the case of Musyarakah Mutanaqisah, the selling price always reflects the market price, and rental payments are determined by market forces, whereas in the case of baik bitamanajil, the market price is significantly higher than the market price. Namely, it does not reflect the true market price of the asset. The sixth is, in the event of a default, Islamic banks are not permitted to charge a penalty under baik bitamanajil financing. This is avoidable when using the Musyarakah Mutanaqisah mode of finance. In this case, if the customer defaults, the financer, specifically the bank, will be entitled to a higher rental payment because its share of the property will remain until the customer resumes payments later on. It is believed that this rent may have a deterrent effect on a customer who avoids repayment because it will remain fixed as long as the principal is not repaid. If the customer is unable to pay even the rent, the property may be leased to a third party with the profit split between the bank and the customer. And the seventh and the last one is that it is been argued that in case of inflation, the baik bitamanajil financing is adversely affected. Musyarakah Mutanaqisah financing protects the financial institution from the negative effects of inflation. As previously stated, the shares should be sold at their current market value. This means that each share will be sold at its fair market value at the time of sale. In this manner, the effects of inflation could be considered. As a result, from the perspective of financial institutions, Musyarakah Mutanaqisah financing technique outforms baik bitamanajil, murabahah or conventional loan because financial institutions can secure a percentage of the asset's value. This way, when the asset appreciates due to inflation, the shares of the financial institution increase in value. As a result, as the asset appreciates with inflation, so do the shares of financial institutions. Furthermore, if the asset is sold, the financial institution's share will rise due to capital appreciation. Next, we will discuss the Musyarakah Mutanaqisah disadvantages. This model is far from perfect as it has flaws and limitations of its own. Some of the drawbacks are briefly discussed. The first one is that it is less attractive to banks because the Musyarakah Mutanaqisah would result in lower profits for Islamic banks. Islamic banks earn higher profits with less risk and effort invested in projects when they use the baik bitamanajil mode of finance. However, according to basic economic theories, as the price of the products or service falls, in this case the Musyarakah Mutanaqisah mode of financing, the demand for that service rises. As a result, while banks may lose some profits by implementing Musyarakah Mutanaqisah in comparison to baik bitamanajil financing, they will gain some extra profits and thus offset some of that loss through an initial increase in demand for their services. The second one is legal changes may be required, particularly with regard to the tax structure. This means that the law should be in place to prevent the customer from being taxed twice for the same property. Lastly, land laws and Islamic banking and finance laws, such as the Islamic Banking Act 1983 and the Banking and Financial Institutions Act 1989, may need to be amended to allow banks to become legal co-owners of properties.
Okay, conclusion is Musyarakah Mutanaqisah home financing is very suitable with the teachings and will enable to all Muslims community, and not only to mobilize their community internal resources, but also stand alone in financial matters. It also save the consumers from going to conventional financial institutions, which is it has interest payments. Then comparing the practice in Musyarakah Mutanaqisah house financing with baik bersama Ajil house financing, already we know of the Musyarakah Mutanaqisah home financing was more Syariah compliant than BBA home financing. So we get no different. Musyarakah Mutanaqisah home financing is more better than BBA home financing because Musyarakah Mutanaqisah is can more to Syariah principle.